Hello, I'm Lee Carroll.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. We talk about the energy in the room. There'll come a day when you can see it. For all energy is measurable, all energy is seeable. If you have the things to see and measure. But it's there. And to set the stage of the energy that is here, I would like to tell you what it is that we are doing. An entourage comes in with me of beautiful beings. I'll call them family. In some cases, you will call them relatives and friends. When you talk about the entourage of Kryon, you talk about the soup of God, you talk about souls that have been, souls to come, and energies that are unexplainable, but you feel them as love. And it creates a safe place to be. If we would paint the broad brush, there is compassion, there is love, there's understanding, there's family, there's all that is. And it supports you right now. It places you in a cocoon of reality. And some of you will feel it, and some of you will not. It is the testimony of the beauty of free choice that belongs to humanity, that we would never force an energy on anyone. But we put it here for those who wish to feel it, who can feel it, and who have intent to feel it. This is the couch, you might say, that you sit in today as we give the message we're going to give. All year long, we've been talking to you about the majesty of the gifts, about the beauty of the time, and through all the difficulty and all the change, we've invited you to hold on. Not to despair, understand what is before you, and at the same time congratulate yourself for being here. It is a complicated message, and yet there is simplicity in the parts. Those listening here and now, in this room, will understand more than those listening out of this room. For those in the room have had a number of hours of teaching by my partner, the principles of the New Age. The new age. You've turned the corner. And even your teachers have recalibrated. They had to. You cannot pull the old energy into this energy, dear one. You just can't. If you do, it'll be self-destructive. Those of you who are facilitators in this room, I encourage you to pull upon that which is your intuition, the Akash that you have had in the past, and bring forward an enhancement to everything you do. For the human mind is ready, and old souls are ready for brand new paradigms to occur in every respect. I'm going to review some of the attributes that we have taught since January. right up to last week. If you followed these messages, dear ones, these will be reviews. But so many of you have not had the time. And so some of these will be important, and it's the only time you're going to hear it wrapped up in this way. What we have talked about, what we have described, what 2014 has all been about. Let us start at the beginning. We started by discussing with you the possibility of the kind of evolution for the human being that you had not really thought about before. An evolution of wisdom. We talked about wisdom factors. We talked about consciousness having physics. But the main attribute was a concept. The concept of children as they grow up, taking a long time, finally getting to this place right before puberty when they're on the playgrounds and they're still hitting each other and swatting each other and calling each other names, and it's the best they can do. But as they grow and become young adults, they pass into another wisdom. They stop hitting each other. They stop calling each other names. They see in one another things they never saw before. There is a realization that if they're going to get along in life, they better get along in life. And they start looking at one another differently. They make friends. They become adults. They're reasonable. They're balanced. It's simple, isn't it? You see it in your children. You went through it yourself. But dear ones, this planet never did. You've been hitting each other with sticks and calling each other names for thousands of years. This is not unexpected. The other planets went through this. There comes a time when there is a full realization of change. And it didn't just start now. It began over 50 years ago. It became refined 25 years ago. I came in because I saw the potential. You're going to need advice. You're going to need help. You're going to need to know what to do next. Every single planet has gone through this at this stage with the same attributes at this stage and needed the kind of help. That's why we're here. I wouldn't be here if the potential was not that you would pass the marker, and you did. In this particular case, on this planet, the precession of the equinoxes was this marker, set up eons ago to be the final test, the timing. If you make it past this, you'd start to change. This was intuitive all along, and the ancients knew it, and they put it in their prophecies. You can read it, you can find it, you can see it in their calendars, and here you are. This is point one of the message. When the children start to grow, they change, and the wisdom starts to change. Perhaps you've seen it in your own. They grow up to be young adults. They behave differently. They act differently. They understand things differently. You actually get a little proud of them. Like we are of you. The playground is over. The survival instincts that you've had, where you separate and conquer, is over. And now you start the wisdom factor. It comes in slowly, dear ones. We call this year one because it's the first year that's free of the attributes of recalibration and great shift. 2013 was not a good year to start anything. Some of you tried. You know exactly what I'm talking about. this is. It happens slowly, and not everyone is the same. All humans are unique. Some of you are still going through the shift and the change with attributes that are going to take longer than others. It depends on who you are. But all of you have the potential of great shift. And it's not negative. Do you hear me? It's the human being who sees it as negative is the one who does not want to go forward. Because they are afraid of it. Because they don't know what it means. Point one, if I could tell you anything about this, you're going to like it. Getting away from the playground means the bullies are going to be gone in the world. Getting away from the playground means you don't call each other names anymore. You work things out. Dear ones, this is the cusp of peace on earth. Peace on earth, we then told you, is not the final goal. It's the beginning of the final goal. It's going to be the easy part. Believe it or not. Wisdom does that. And as your children became more mature, you didn't have to beat it into them to be nice to each other. They just were. They saw it for themselves because the wisdom of an adult began to show them how to behave. That balance was everything. So point one, you're in a graduate earth and you're starting to mature. In the process, it's going to feel different. That's point number one. Number two, it was early in the year. A message was given that some of you didn't like because it was so different to what you really expected me to say. I said to you, stop being strange. In an old energy, there was value in being strange because you set off yourself apart from the others so you could hold your truth so others would stay away from you. Not bother you. You could hold the truth and believe what you wanted to believe, and others would not try to interrupt it or take it from you, and you were just odd enough so they would stay away. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Just ask your relatives. You know, the holiday time, dear ones, is a really challenging time. You've got to be with them whether you want to or not. The elephant under the table, they probably won't ask you. What are you doing? What do you believe today? Are you still doing the weird stuff? Stop being strange. It's time to come out of the shell of everything you've ever learned about light and balance yourself. I want this Christmas, these holidays, whatever you call it, whatever reason you'd get together for family, even if you don't celebrate Christmas. This culture you do and others you don't, you'll be listening to my voice. Families get together. And sometimes it's difficult. Here's your challenge. I want them to know you've changed. You relax. You're compassionate. You smile more. You're comfortable with them, even with the questions that they may ask. You're comfortable because you have compassion for humanity, and that's all there is. And if they ask a pointed question that perhaps in the past has led you right into disagreement and argument and drama, you can disengage it and look at them and love them and have compassionate and have an answer that is beautiful. Won't make them wrong. Won't make you right. Instead, an answer which will show you you care about them a lot. It could be as simply as I love you enough not to get into this discussion. How about that? I love my family enough not to get into a discussion that would pull us apart. Can we celebrate the love of God together in whatever way we can or wish to, and stay together as a unit. And they'll look at you and they'll say, what happened to you? If you separate and show unbalance, there isn't anybody who's going to want to be with you. Do you understand this? Do you understand this? You can't shine your light when you appear to be unbalanced to the person next to you. At work, balance is the key. Not isolation, not odd, not strange. It may be time to stop telling people what you believe. You don't have to anymore. You can just believe it. Do you understand that? Sometimes there are things you can say which will alienate people next to you. And they'll recognize immediately you must be one of those strange ones, one of those odd ones. That's no longer what we're asking. Balance and shining your light and compassion for those around you is the new normal. So let's talk about attribute number 3, the new normal. We started talking about this in July. You cannot go backwards, dear ones, into what used to work. Human beings intrinsically do not like change. It's just not anything that you can deal with. It takes energy to change things that shouldn't change. That is how you work. How is it possible, dear human being, for you to get used to something that always moves? In the process of the attributes, we told you that it's like a radio station with a frequency that is beginning to shift. The communication with Spirit that you've always had through meditation, through teaching, through intuitive thought, maybe seem missing. It's not. It just changed frequencies. Metaphorically, we tell you to reach for the dial and tune to the new frequency so you can center it up again. But what we didn't tell you until recently was that it moves all the time. Every morning, you may have to get out and find the center. That is how fast the energy is moving. There is a potential for you that things may move faster than they ever have had before. Things that took years to move and change might do it in months. How fast can you adapt to a changing reality? Paradigm shifts. There is something called the new normal. And the new normal is a reality that is constantly on the move. It never truly settles in one place. We gave you the example of going to work and coming home, and the furniture in your house had rearranged itself by itself. It got consciousness all of a sudden, sprouted legs, and decided to move around a bit. You came home and you did not like the new arrangement. So you put it all back where it was. You went to work again, came home, it had changed yet again. Every time you left, the furniture moved. What do? We discussed the various human attributes and the groups and what they would do. And there would be the group that says, I'm getting new furniture. This isn't working. And the solution was to try your best to make the old energy work. Old furniture, old energy, don't move around. I want it the way I want it. And they're the ones who said, I don't understand it. but it's kind of cute. I can hardly wait to see what the furniture does tomorrow. And every day you leave, it decides to move yet again. That takes wisdom. In certain cases, it takes courage. This third attribute, the catalyst attribute, is the catalyst for balance in your life. Can you accept change as normal? I will tell you, dear ones, that if you can and you will, you are going to have a much more peaceful existence. Balance with change. Not tolerance, balance. Didn't ask you to tolerate it. I asked you to like it. Can you do that? Old soul, this is all part of what you've been trained for. All part of what you've been trained for. There are those in this room who are already used to change. You're okay with it. You've seen it in your life. And there are those who are simply now starting to see it. Everyone in the room, everyone listening, is on a unique path of their own. You are not clumped together as one class at the same level. This is why I cannot give you like one generic rule for all. And I never will. There are different degrees of knowledge and wisdom. Number 4. We told you that you're going to be fine. And do not despair. Except for one thing. The darkness, that is, the dark consciousness of this planet, that which was always there and is rising its head today, knows your weakness clearly. It knows who you are, as I do. And it will fight you with the one thing that it knows works really well. It's fear. If you're afraid, your light goes out. Kryon, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. Oh, really? Yes, you are. There will be things that will test that fear. It tested my partner with fear. It tested those of the Kryon entourage with fear. Fear is disabling. Fear is a quitting energy. Fear will take all the joy out of your life. And you'll be left with nothing you recognize, and you won't even know who you are. I'm telling you, dear ones, that fear is what the darkness wants to create. Now, I also told you there's a solution to it. Fear cannot get in if light is being broadcast all the time. Do you hear me? It's time for you to stop protecting yourself by some imaginary shield from either dark energies or dark consciousnesses or anything else that you can imagine is trying to get to you, and understand the new parameters and the new paradigm. You broadcast light, and you broadcasting light, nothing can get in. Nothing. It's not about shielding anymore. You are now proactive. You're not sitting there trying to ward off the arrows coming from the darkness. You are light. When you have that consciousness, there is nothing that can get in. Nothing. For as long as the light is held, the darkness cannot get it. You understand that principle? It's a metaphor, but it is true. Your light is defined as your compassion factor, your wisdom factor, your joy factor. Don't let them put it out. Don't let them. That was number 4. There are 6, so we're almost done. We're racing through the whole year of training. Then we started telling you about innate. We wanted you to know that whatever it was in the old energy, this is different. The smart body called innate is starting to increase in its efficiency. Bridges are starting to be built between the corporeal synaptic brain and the pineal. And what this means is that intuitive thought is going to become clearer. Do you know how the human being is really designed? I have said this before. It's so that your intuitive brain, that which is your pineal, is supposed to be as large a player in your reality as your corporeal synaptic brain. And that between the two of them you have a balanced human being who can create synchronicity at will, who understand what's wrong with their body and way in advance of a problem can take care of it. Will see things coming before they happen because the intuitiveness of you can see it, a bigger picture. That's how it was designed. This is the beginning of that. Some of you are going to become more intuitive. In the process, it's different. Let me give you some symptoms of an intuitive brain starting to assert itself in a human being in a new energy. Sleeplessness, change of diet, walking funny lines on the street. In other words, balance issues. How you doing so far? You don't change your biology this radically without symptoms. What does that create in you, especially those of you who are getting older? Fear. I'm losing it. Why is it the human being always goes to the dark when something changes? Change does not mean negative things. When you were a child, you can't even remember, and you started developing, and your body started to become bigger. Do you remember this? You celebrated it. You could hardly wait to be bigger. You could hardly wait for the things that you could do that you see the other children who were bigger done. You loved it. Now here comes change and you're older and you're afraid of it. I want you to understand, you're not done growing. How would you like to do what the adults do on the other planets? You can hardly wait. Your innate wants to connect fully to you. And it's beginning in some of you. Don't let it be to worry. Let it connect. Your body is listening to everything. Everything. It's not only listening to those things you tell it regarding the three-dimensional things, but also the things that you simply think about. Your body listens. How are you doing in the self-worth department? What are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself you are unlimited? That despite tradition and everything you see around you, you can last a whole lot longer than anyone around you will. Because you don't have to age. Now when you say that, do you really believe it? Or is there a part of you that says, sounds good, how am I doing? Self-worth is the major issue of the old soul. And we have taught this over and over and over because you have spent so many lifetimes being beat up. Physically, mentally. Here you come to this one and everything in you cries, it's going to be the same. And it isn't. How are you going to get through that? The answers vary from human to human. How balanced are you now? Can you balance and center to a point where you can talk to your body one-on-one and feel it responding? For the first time in human history, you have got a chemistry and an innate who is all ears and wants instructions. Ready to go, ready to go, ready to go. This is a new energy, dear ones. Test it. Test it. Simple things that you can do with yourself to test these things. Next time you feel ill, I want you to accelerate your healing and cut in half the number of days it takes to recover. Immediately. Talk to your innate. Give them the deadline. And watch it happen. When you do these simple things, you're going to ask yourself, what else can I do? What else can I do? Every single day, you can talk to your chemistry, your innate. Dear innate, I know you're there. And that brings us to number 6, the hardest one. Here is a concept that we just opened. We just presented 1 week ago. The concept is a difficult one for anyone who calls themselves a rational human to figure out. There are 2 kinds of survival. The survival of the chemistry is your brain's job. It puts you in survival mode and keeps you safe and protects you as best it can. But there is another kind of survival that lays where you've never seen it before, and innate is responsible for it. For innate is connected to the higher self. We're going to call this spiritual survival. How is it that innate could help humanity to get to a place where they were wiser, go to graduate, and not determine themselves as ending through war? What is it that innate could do? What is the instinct that it could give humanity to keep them from destroying themselves, to keep them from going to that place where they've gone so many times before, where they never got ahead? And we told you what it was. And it was hard for you to hear. The engine of wisdom production in humanity has been reincarnation. Every time a human being reincarnates, they have the ability to pick up the wisdom from the past life, paste it on the current life, and become wiser for it. And they do. Old souls will wake up if the energy is correct and right because of what they've experienced in past lives. You can track it. You can see it. New souls don't have the experience to understand what you understand. They don't feel innate. They don't feel the higher self. They're still wallowing in an old kind of survival. They're not interested, and you are. Because you have reached a point. So many lifetimes have gone by. Every time you came in, you were just a little wiser than the time before. Do you understand what this created? Short lifetimes. Take a look. Short lifetimes. Look at the logic of it. Spiritual survival for this planet to graduate to the place where it could be, if you had short lifetimes, you could come in again, and you could come in again, and you could come in again. The more times you came in, the wiser you'd be. This is what innate designed for you. How do you like that? Now suddenly, you pass that marker. And that spiritual survival doesn't need to be there anymore, but it lays there anyway. Because you're designed that way. You've got to start reprogramming innate. Reprogramming the DNA. And the way you do it is through the energy of understanding, affirmation, belief, knowledge, intent. Your body knows what you know. You start talking to it and explaining in this new energy, you have the ability to move to a new wisdom and stay alive. How about that?
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I deliver a message which is now known to my partner, but not completely. The message this night, not just for those in the room, for those who would give intent to hear these things, to read these things, are part of a group of those awakening on the planet, giving permission to stretch that bubble of their reality to include that which heretofore has been strange, illogical, and not something that would be part of their reality. And this, dear human being, is what is earmarking you as different from the others, that you would go beyond your fear and push that which you consider to be real into a place that is not familiar to you. A place where you have to ask the questions, what now? Where am I going? What can I expect? And you will not receive the three-dimensional responses that you're used to. And we know that. Oh, dear ones, there is so much help for you. If we could give you the principles that we have given before of how these things work, you are not alone in these things. When you decide to do anything that is sacred and what you would call spiritual, or what you would call work on yourself, there is an attribute which we have channeled about in this very area. You actually broadcast an energy of intent to the cellular portions of your body which are divine. And a signal is sent to them that activates an energy that you don't even know you have. But oh, if you believe you've got God inside, then you have to understand there is something in there that will respond to your intent to meet God. To meet God in a way that keeps you alive and well and peaceful on the earth. Free of disease. One who will have the energy you deserve for the age that you are. And it is absolute. This energy is going to be delivered to you. And you will see it and you will feel it as you progress through your desire to meet that which is in your cells, which is divine. Difficult to explain to you something so invisible, so magnificent. But even more difficult is it for me to explain those things which you cannot ever see. A system that we have that you know all about when you're not on your side of the veil. It is complex beyond belief, not understandable in 3 dimensions. And yet we describe it to you yet again today. We really want you to take this in. We teach this today to satisfy some of those of you who wonder, but also to give you information that is an enhancement of the magnificence of the human being. I want to talk about your past lives. I don't want to talk about past lives in a way that you think. I want to talk about all of them. Who do you think you are? What is the history that you think you have? And right away, I will tell you, as complex as this is, you have drawn a box around it. Even the metaphysical ones in the room, the esoteric ones, you've drawn a box. And the box is human life, how many times you might have been here, who you might have been, how you contributed to the earth's energy. And if you did that, I would say, how special, how quaint. You have no idea. You have no idea. There is a system that is grander than any system that you can comprehend. You are pieces of God, and God has no age. What you call the God energy, the creator of the universe, is not just the creator of the universe. That God attitude energy is the creator of all things, including those things before the universe. You cannot start with your universe. But let's say we do, just to make it simple. And then let's focus on just your galaxy, just to make it simple. Not including the hundreds of millions of other galaxies. We'll concentrate just on yours. And we'll say that this Earth of yours is a baby. Oh, it's been around as long as your galaxy, made from the same stuff, entangled with the center it is, just like all of the others. The solar systems, the star clusters, all going around at the same speed. Entangled they are. But this quantum entanglement has something else you should know about. That whatever life there would be in the galaxy that is advanced enough to have quantum inventions are all talking to each other. You've given them many names, and you're aware of them. Those from perhaps Orion, those from the Arcturian, perhaps the Pleiadian. And what is their relationship to you? Have we ever discussed it? And you sit back and say, oh, I wish I knew more about them, not understanding for a moment you used to be them. Oh, they're still around. But your soul has moved into the new planet of free choice, Earth. You were seeded by the Pleiadians only 200,000 years ago. You're a baby in the galaxy. You are the newest life form in the galaxy. The newest life form to have that which is implanted in you, which would be knowledge of energy that is high and low and divine and not. Not all life in this galaxy has that seed, dear ones. Some is simply biology. Very carefully, the Creator has put together a scenario of planets that advance one another. And this is the newest at the moment. We have said it 3 times before. Don't you find it odd that this Earth of yours took so long to develop? You've been here more than 4 billion years, and humanity as you know it, with the seeds that are in place of the Pleiadians, is only 200,000 years old. When you trace back what you think is humanity, you can't go back much more than 10 or 15,000. How many years did the Pleiadians have from the place where they graduated to an advanced state of enlightenment to the place where they seated you? 1 million Earth years. And they were the baby at the time. They don't measure it in years, by the way. You can't. For the year only responds to the terminology of you going around your sun one time. The galactic measurement is done in what they call revs, That is to say, revolutions of stars around the center. And since they go all at the same speed, it is a common measurement for every single star and cluster and planet in the universe that is your galaxy. It takes you 240 million years to go around the center. There are civilizations that have actually gone around one rev. And you sit here at 200,000 years. So what I want to tell you, dear ones, if you're going to talk about past lives, you have souls that incarnate wherever the planets need you to do so. And you have been here for at least a rev. On other places, other planets that come and go, looking much like you do now. Is there any proof to these things? Not yet. Not yet. There will come a time, and it's not going to become soon, when there will be an invention on this planet that you will measure civilization from. And everything before that invention will seem like the Dark Ages, and everything after it will be the new planet Earth. The invention that we speak of is that which enables you to create, sustain, and measure a quantum state. And it will begin with those who figure out how to see it. If you can see a quantum state, that is to say, measure it and somehow observe it in 3D, there is going to be revelation. For you will see things that are unseeable to you now, which will lead you then to inventions you cannot conceive of. Let us say Christopher Columbus gets out of his ship and meets you today in the room. And your task is to explain the internet to him. There will be no understanding, no matter how long you sat. Do you understand this? For the consciousness of him, his time, what he believes, and his reality can never mesh with what you know. There'll come a time when you will look at what you know today and consider it in the same way. For you have chosen to pass a barrier. And this barrier is what we always expected when I came in 22 years ago and told you this was it. It is what we saw as the potential. And the potential is being manifest. You may not like what is going on in your country, but you are recalibrating things that you need to recalibrate to move into what we would call the seeds of the future. It'll change everything. Consciousness cannot continue in an enlightened state with greed. There are many things that will recalibrate themselves, and what you would expect naturally instead of have to create. There will be a time when politics is not as it is today. That is going to require those who are older now in places of power to be no longer there. And that will happen through an attrition of retirement and death. When the new generation is in place, you will start to see that which is different thinking, systems that no one has ever thought of, ways to create the things today you struggle with. How can you create and fund war and wellness at the same time? And the answer right now is you can't. And this will be a discovery that does not sit well with an old guard, but will with a new one, if you know what I mean. You sit here in front of me with 23 chromosomes. And you think, well, that's just the way it works. Well, it doesn't. For all the others around you have 24 that are not humans. Not only that, 2 of them have been fused against all common sense of evolution. Counterintuitive to anything you see in nature, you stand there as the only kind of mammal instead of a variety. And you think everything is fine. If there were anyone who would come to your planet and look at the system, they would yell at you and say, "Can't you see you're different? You're not from here." And that's the subject. So you have to start with past lives, and you have to say, you have been not only your ancestors on earth, but all of the others who are your parents and your grandparents planetarily. No matter what you call them, dear ones. Those from Orion, those Arcturians. They're very helpful, aren't they? Because they are grandparents. Some of them seeded the Pleiadians. And then the Pleiadians seeded you. And it was not done in a conquering way. Pure love. Not like your movies show it. Divinely inspired, appropriate, correct. And someday that quantum invention that you're going to have is going to show something. As soon as they take those instruments and point them at a human being, they're going to see a quantum field, and it's going to shock them. To find out that your biology is quantum. And other mammals, it's not. Will make them wonder what it is about the human being that is special. And then they will have to turn their eyes upon that which is, perhaps, multidimensional and divine. You're born knowing that there is a Creator. And you search for the Creator from the time you can imagine what's on the other side of your reality. More than 80% of humanity does this. Belongs to organizations, worships in their own way. Bless it all. For the search for God in any form is seen as appropriate. But what about the past lives here? And now we get into the system that you are more familiar with, which you call the Akashic. Akashic inheritance is what we want to talk about. You go through a cycle of life. You come and you go, and you come and you go. The old system of coming and going is different than the new one. And that is tough for some to believe, for they believe the systems are always the same, and they're not. They change with energy. And as you manifest other kinds of energy on the planet, the systems respond. What was the system that the ancients intuitively set up? Now, my partner has taught about that this very day. What is the intuitive system of the first religions on the planet? And the answer is past lives. And it remained that way for a very long time until what you would call modern day. And the modern day systems threw away the potential that you had lived before. And the reason, a long time ago, was for control. For if you only have one life, you will only have one afterlife. And if you only have one afterlife, you want to behave yourself in the current life so it's the correct one. The idea that you might come around again then takes control out of the hands of those who want you to do certain things now. And that's modern spirituality. Well, there's nothing modern about it. Because it is not that which is so. It doesn't matter what the human being believes, honestly. As long as they are aware of the God inside. For many systems serve the human being in worship, even those that don't believe in past lives. For there still is the love of God in every single life that is enhanced through that which is awareness, worship, meditation, energy, all seen by Spirit as a touch of you to the family. A step closer to understanding who you are. Any system based in love is a good system. For compassion and love is the core issue. And that's why you have past lives. Every single lifetime that you live is collected and imprinted in two places. One is the crystalline grid of the planet, and the other one is in your Akash. Your Akash is actually in three places. We've told you this before, but the one that is tonight's subject is that in your DNA. It imprints itself so that you can use it later. And that has been the teaching of the day. But let me tell you about the system. The old system has you react to karma. Karma is incomplete energy of an expression in the past. That is to say, you come in incomplete in a way that you have a life lesson to then correct or complete the things that were not complete the time before. And we told you this years ago, that system can be now augmented, and you can throw away any energies of incompletion. For you now may manifest that, not only which is your own Akashic remembrance and energy, but that is to come. Let me explain. You come into the planet and there is karma. You know how to remove it. For you now come in with a consciousness that says, I don't need it, and so you remove it. Instead of karma, there has to be something to drive what you do next. And what drives what you do next is that which we would call light, compassion, awareness. And you then control your life and the energies of your life to such an extent that relatives will claim you don't belong to their family. You change who you are. You're in charge of your own boat. You hold the rudder and you steer it where you want. That is today's energy. Let me tell you about tomorrow's energy, and we have mentioned this only one time before. Now we are telling you that not only are you driving your own boat this time around, but you can now give intent for what you wish to do the next time you come, while you're here this time. That has been reserved for you after you get to the other side of the veil, which is my side, looking at everything, all potentials, and coming back in. You now do it while you're here. Through your intent to see what must be done, you choose, shall I come back in the same family or not? Which is the next subject. What should I do that I could not do now because of who I am and where I am, and how will I change it? And you give intent. That's new. I would like to tell you something, dear ones. That is master quality. That's what the masters did. And you are doing it. You don't even know it. You're working on your self-worth and you have no idea how far you've come. All right. Let us reveal some things that you have not been told recently about the whole process of past lives. Now we turn the page and we deflect from the subject, but not really. We now wish to reveal to you something that has been asked us many times that we want now to tell you more clearly. Here is the question. Do animals have past lives? Do they reincarnate? Even more than that, what do they reincarnate to? I'll answer it, and many of you won't like it. Here's the answer. First of all, throw away your idea of the linear progression of animal incarnation if you happen to believe that it exists. A mouse does not become a dolphin. A dolphin does not then graduate to becoming human. You may look in a human being's eyes and say, I see dolphin energy in there, and it won't be because they were a dolphin. There's other things. So right away, we're going to shatter the idea that there is a graduation process through animal incarnation. There is no system for animals except one. Do animals incarnate again? Yes. What is the system? And this is the one that is hard to describe, for it is not linear. I will tell you the only animals that incarnate are the ones that are around humans. That's all. Animals in the forest, they don't. In the plains, they don't. In other words, they have to have been influenced by human consciousness, and that enhances them. They have no divinity in them like you do in yours. There is no test of their consciousness like there is yours. They have in their intelligence, as you all know, the concept of unconditional love. And that doesn't belong to you, does it? You have got to work for it. And they are there, therefore, for one purpose, if they're around you. Love. And if that is generated in an animal, it sets up a system. And that system can be then extended over and over and over, for they don't live long enough. There are those in this room who need to hear this. Those who are listening who need to hear this. Hearing, reading, need to hear this. There is a way to extend the love affair of your animal. After it goes and you put the dust in the earth, they want to come back. There's a system. Go look for them, and they'll be there. That's the system. It's beautiful. Don't expect to find the same color, the same breed, even the same kind of animal. But you can look in their eyes, and you will see them, because they hover around you. They're in the places around you. If you go look, you'll find them. And they will continue the love affair, and you'll know it in what they do and their habits, and there will be no question it's the same one. Go do it. It's a beautiful system, but it is created for you. The magnificence of the divine inside the human means that whatever it touches changes. You can affect the ones with 24 chromosomes. And the animals respond. Doesn't matter, dear ones, whether it's a mouse or a horse. Even an elephant. Doesn't matter. They come back. If you love them, they'll come back. Let us end with this. The most complex thing I'm going to give you today. The beauty and complexity of Akashic inheritance takes two paths. Because you are linear thinkers, because you are in 3 dimensions, you have always allied Akashic inheritance to your chemistry. The man in the chair before you is 4th generation Irish. Goes all the way back to the seed country. And so there is the thought that his Akash, that is where he was in the past life, simply matches that which is his chemistry. And it doesn't. And it doesn't with yours either. 2 complete separate paths exist. That is to say, the man before you in the chair although he is fourth generation Irish and has Irish blood, might as well just have come from India the last time and hate meat and potatoes. And you'll say, wait a minute, how can that work? And that's the point, it does. So it doesn't matter about the lineage of your parents. That is totally chemistry. And the genes that are represented there are a three-dimensional system. You'll have their eye color, some of their attributes, even some of their talents and their looks. But you may not have anything else that has to do with them if your last lifetime was in India. And what if it was? Let's say it was. You're going to come into this planet, born in America, perhaps, let's say, of Irish descent, let's say, just as an example, and you're not going to want to eat meat. And so you will become vegan. And it works for your body. And those around you will wonder, what happened to you? And why would you do this? Now, there is a propensity for everyone to stand on their soapbox, so to speak, and say, this is the way to eat. Look at me. Not understanding that the statement should really be, this is the way I should eat, based upon my Akashic inheritance. And that's as far as you can take it. For all of you have a different inheritance. And when you start combining them, that means that every single chemistry of everyone in the chair wants to eat something different for them. And some will be just fine with everything that's put into your food in America. Because you've been here so long, your body is used to it. It's even handling the preservatives. And others of you will come in and immediately react because you've never experienced it. Now you'd say, wait a minute, that's chemistry. I told you it would be complex. The Akashic inheritance and the chemistry inheritance meld together in a very odd way and create a scenario that is not explainable in linear terms. Now I've just given you something to think about. But it starts to explain perhaps some of the things that don't make sense with you. How you can have certain attributes of your parents and yet others you have no idea. Well, we know. And a past life reader may help. Now you know. There is complexity. Now, let me stir in the last complexity. And this won't make any sense. You tend to incarnate as family. If that's so, how can you have family that is from different places? Well, now, I didn't really say that you were from different places. What I told you is you incarnate as family. It's not necessarily the family of chemistry. And here's what it means. Right now, in this room, family meets family. Maybe you haven't looked in everybody's eyes here. This is your family. It's not your mother and dad, sister and brother, but you knew that, didn't you? Oh, they're chemistry, and they're allied in a certain way, and you feel the bond. But that's not the spiritual bond. You incarnate as family. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you find each other right away. There's no timing. You made that up. That you all come in together. You don't. But you often find one another. So in closing, I'll say to you this, listener, reader, in this room, you are meeting family in this shift as you come together as one. And realize you're allied through the love of God with all things living, including the air and the rocks, including that which you have not yet met, which are your ancestors on other planets who know what you're doing. We stand together in congratulations and tell you that eventually you'll understand the systems. It will be taught in school. Not yet. But that's the way it went on the other planets, and that's the way it will go here. Finally, we say, do not be discouraged, for you are in the infancy of enlightenment. This will not take place in your lifetime, even the youngest ones here. But you are the seeds for it, and you know it's coming, and you will be here when it happens. Because you're coming back. All of you. And you're going to want to. All of you. Because when you awaken the next time, and this is a promise, there will be an earth that is couched for your enlightenment, and you will not have difficulty with it. You'll not have to struggle like you did this time and relearn everything like you did this time. You're going to awaken with a concept that God's inside. And that's because you've changed the energy of the planet. And you continue. The crystalline grid resounds with this and will cooperate with this. Gaia awaits what you're going to do next and will then morph to complement the energy that you create. And that, dear human being, is something to celebrate today. Leave here differently. And so it is. Hello, I'm Lee Carroll.
Time to bring your energy in. And as you do that, settle in. Just relax. Give yourself a couple of nice deep breaths so that you can bring your awareness more deeply inside of you. Another breath. Close your eyes and let your focus gently come to your heart so that as you breathe, your heart energy is connected to your breath. And you are there in the center of your physical body, but also there in the center of your compassion body, your connection body, so that when you are hearing the wonderful messages that Adirondha and Kryon bring, you are listening from a place that is fuller and richer, that contains the cells of awareness that we have been nurturing as we awaken, as we begin to find our way into this new world that we're creating. So take another breath. Open that compassionate heart, that clear, wonderful mind, and welcome the messages of Kryon and Adirondha.
So it is good day to you, huh? Oh, so very good to see your light, your brightness, your divine presence, dearest beings of light. We are so honored to be here with you. And as that honoring is coming in, that frequency is moving and flowing in that figure 8 position, which we love. And it's coming out from you, it's going up, it's going in all directions. We would like to speak with you a bit today about expectations. What are your expectations of today? You will be inspired, enlightened, entertained, learn something, come away with a new lease on your life, a new connection, a new wherewithal with what the universe is and what is happening. Yes. Do you expect, as the dear friend Lee Carroll talked about time and how they've proven that time is a variable thing. It is not a constant nor linear. Do you know that your expectations can actually shift the frequency of time? Yes. when you expect to not have enough time and you feel overwhelmed and you expect that you're not going to be able to get everything done, then time sort of folds in upon itself. And when you have your expectations that you've got plenty of time and the energy is going slowly and smoothly and everything is completely free, then it is. I saw Marilyn was talking the other day about Sundays, how she loves Sundays well, she loves Sundays anyway. She loves every day. But when you have a Sunday where you're not doing anything, it just seems like it goes on and on and on, and the day lasts a long time. Well, the day is still 24 hours long. It is still measured in a specific time frame. However, her perception shifted. So Marilyn was making something that she's never made before since her mother passed away, which is called banana bread. Now, it was gluten-free, sugar-free banana bread. And she expected all the time she was making it, she was expecting it to taste just like when she made it for her dear mother who passed. And when you think of something that is gluten-free and something that is sugar-free, they use honey instead of sugar, you would think that your expectation might be that it would not taste quite as good as regular banana bread. However, her expectation is that she would expect it to taste like what she would make for her mother at her mother's request. And you know what? It did. Now, did the expectation create that? Or did the gluten-free, sugar-free banana bread really taste like that? Only time will tell. We need an unbiased opinion here. So as you create that energy, and as you move forward in your world, we ask you, on one hand, to release all expectation, because expectation keeps you from being very present. To some, expectations of the way things are going to be actually can breed disappointment and frustration, because the world is changing so rapidly, things are never as they expect to be. And with that expectation, you are looking to change your perspective about something that has not happened yet. And then there's the belief of expecting miracles. Just expecting everything to always be in that state of flow, everything to always be unfolding exactly as it needs to unfold, even though in your logical brain at that moment it may seem a little jangled at the point, but it smooths out and you think, oh, well, that was easy, like banana bread with gluten-free and no sugar. Well, that was easy, and it tastes the same, because that is the expectation. So you see, expectation is sort of an anomaly, a little like what they talked earlier about Branson, Missouri, is a bit of an anomaly. Because your expectations, you can expect things to move forward easily and effortlessly and be in that flow, and all the technology to work and all the energy to work and all that frequency to be perfect, just as your mother's banana bread. Or you can expect things to go wrong, or you expect this to happen and that to happen, and then of course that is what happens during what is that time period, Mercury's retrograde or something like that, and people start expecting everything to go wrong with technology, so therefore it does. So what would happen, dearest beings of light, if you released all expectation? And then would Mercury retrograde have any power over you? No. It would be in the beauty of time as it is. Now, do sun flares and things like that have to do with electronics? Maybe. Or is that just your expectation of it? There is that school of thought that everything is an illusion. that this camera here is an illusion, and it is only broadcasting an illusion out to the world. And because you know what a vessel Marilyn and we look like when we are present with the vessel Marilyn, as she is the divine link, your expectations of what she looks like. Or is that just the illusion? You see, we don't believe that there is an answer to that question. We believe that when you have that answer to that question, you have ascended. And you're still having your body, so you're not ascended yet. You see, your expectations of the way things ought to be, could be, would be, are expanding now with the reality that humanity is in right now, right here, as we are evolving and moving into a new dimensional frequency. This COVID thing is shifting the consciousness of humanity right now and allowing humanity to take a pause. A vessel Marilyn takes a pause every day at 11:11 a.m. Central Time, and in that, she brings all that wish to join her into that same pause. She was listening to a Taoist report. You know, Tao. It is like a practice, like Buddhism. It can be a religion, but it is a practice. And they were talking about having a forest bath. Yes, a forest bath. And of course, the thought was, well, do you take a bath in the forest? Do you bring your bathtub into the forest and surround yourself with the trees and the nature? And they said, no, it is just walking through and allowing all of that nature to give you a sensory bath. And now in some countries, they're doing that, charging a little money for it to keep the forests clean and taken care of. But in that capacity, you can actually have that energy bath wherever you are, based upon your expectations. So you see, if you are walking outside and you expect the sun to be shining and it is not, you know that doesn't mean that the sun is missing. That means that the sun just is behind the clouds. Well, the energy bath is the same way. And your expectations of wherever you are, wherever you can be, if that expectation is that you are so present, that you are experiencing the joy of just breathing in and out of the air, watching the trees or watching the neighbors or watching the children or watching nothing, the birds, the insects, that is what will happen. Because that is the expectation. So what is the difference between expecting that and being so present and enjoying that? There is an illusion. So as you are accommodating that, and you're making it all up anyway, creating this illusion, why not just breathe into the possibility of creating the most wondrous illusion possible? That is what happens, you know. That puts you into that flow of miraculous, extraordinary moments that are becoming ordinary every moment of the day. That is what we believe expecting miracles are all about. That release that something has to be a certain way for it to be good or bad or indifferent. Instead, just allow yourself to be present. Allow yourself to expect presence within you. And the miraculous universe will then respond just as time responds. And as that miraculous universe responds to your expectations of everything being miraculous, just as your expectations of time folding in upon itself or expanding, the universe, source, God, if you would, says yes. Says yes to you. So when you expect that, it happens. And when you expect that, and it doesn't seem to happen in the way you expect it to, that is when you release your expectations. And if we have confused you with all of this talk of expectations to know and not know, and have this and be here and have the illusion and not have the illusion and create the illusion, and to know that it is just an illusion and it is not real anyway, dearest beings of light, you will entertain your brain with all of those thoughts. We will talk more about that. But for the time being, simply take a deep breath. Be present, expecting presence within you, through you, and all around you. And that presence is love. If you expect nothing, then it simply is love. We do not believe that is an illusion. Because we love you. Always. Infinitely. We see you. And until later, when the illusion comes back, we bid you namaste. Namaste.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are many who haven't really figured out what happens during a channel. Some who are very invested in the messages that you hear from channelers still consider them as text. Learning. You'll write notes, you'll listen later, and you'll use those things in your life. That's one layer of what happens during channeling. But those who are more in tune with the rest of the story understand that every time there is a channel from Source, there are layers which occur for the human being, depending upon their receptivity to the layers. Some are simply information. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that is why they're there. That's where their life is, and they are wanting more all the time. The next layers have to do with energy. What's happening in addition to the information? Well, the first thing I want to tell you is there's a second layer of information. So if you were one of those, you realize that within the message, there are other messages given, not necessarily in the language that I'm speaking. The third and fourth layers on down have to do with energy. What happens during a channel that has nothing whatsoever to do with the information that is being spoken? Is it possible that a channel can create a field? Dear ones, that's exactly what we do, all of us. That's exactly what my partner has done, and Adirondha has done, and all of the council has done with her.
And there are those who would listen both live in an audience and also long distance, and even after the fact. The field exists because it is a quantum, multidimensional field. And I'll call it a field of allowance. It allows the human being to see things they could never see, to feel things they could never feel, to be in attributes that they never thought they could be in. Some see colors. Some have all manner of other situations. Some get answers. Some weep uncontrollably because they finally see love and they realize the truth of what the creative source has in their own soul. Some are overwhelmed because finally they see and feel the handout that we've talked about from the creative source, with free choice to take it or not take it. To have something you never had before, and that is control over fear and anxiety and worry. Some are starting to understand and feel in that third and fourth, maybe in the fifth layer of the information and the energy being given, that there's so much more. It's life-changing. And then there are a few who sit and realize that a field is being created that gives the allowance, and every single cell of their body goes, oh, this would be a good time for the healing that I came for. Is it possible that the channeling can create that kind of a circle of energy, of a field where even long distance, even after the fact, those who would come into the circle would be changed so much that they would have an allowance to heal their bodies when they didn't really understand how they would ever do it before. Kryon, where are you going with all of this? Which he calls his sight. Every single channel, I have told him, should go to that place and be free for the earth. And that's where they'll go. So you will hear all four if you choose, and it is your choice. I've just scared my partner. Is it possible that you can have anxiety during a channeling? And the answer is, he is a human, just like you. Maybe he doesn't want a new assignment, just like you. There are four attributes in this human body of yours and his. Two are obvious, and they're in 3 dimensions, and they are used constantly. 2 are not obvious. You might say they belong to the metaphysical group. The first of the 4 we'll call chemistry, obvious. The chemistry is the main thrust of healers all over the planet who you know as medical personnel. In all of the hospitals, in all those who are trained, Even those who are metaphysical must understand the chemistry of the body. The thrust that you have on the planet at the moment is that it's the chemistry that is that which is alterable in order to cure the diseases that you may have. And you know what I'm talking about. Allopathic medicine, reactive medicine, call it what you wish. Some of it actually works very well, dear ones. You've made some amazing discoveries. But you still have a system where when you push one thing, something else reacts. You see, your body is interconnected as one thing. You cannot address one organ or one part of the chemistry of a system and not have something else then react. So it's always been this way, even from the smallest dosages of certain things that you would have to cause a reaction, there is always an additional reaction. That's the chemistry. That's perhaps the most three-dimensional part of the four that you would have. I'm going to identify the part of chemistry in the second channel that you're perhaps not aware of, that's still 3D. I'll get there. The second one is called inheritance. And you know exactly where I'm going with this one. Finest doctors will see you and say, what did your mother or father have that I need to know about? Because there is the knowledge that you would have right now, that in inheritance, quite often, there are the genes of disease. And so what happened in the past to your sisters and your brothers or your mother or your father may very well have been carried right into your body, and you would expect the same. This has to do with the chemistry, of course, but it is the second part for good reason, and I'm going to identify why in a bit. Inheritance, to some of you, is a death sentence. You'll say, what good is it that I should even try to heal myself when I know my sister died of it and my mother died of it? Because it is simply built in to my humanism. It's part of my chemistry. It's part of my future. Is that right or wrong? And you know what I teach. But if you will go to the place of teaching today that is 3D, in the medical industry, they will say, yes, because your sister had it, because your mother had it, yes, you will probably get it. Here are the odds, and they're not good. What will you do? Will you remove parts of your body, perhaps, so you won't get it? Will you go here or there? But there's no question. You say, none of those will say, and by the way, if you'd like to break that chain of inheritance, well, you can. You don't hear that. These first two are extremely three-dimensional, and they are what you see today in your major medicine. And then we get esoteric. The next two belong to you in a grand fashion and are never talked about in the medical industry, and are the ones that start to come into play with the healers that may be watching this program. There are so many more than four, dear ones, but all of them will fall into categories of these four that I'm giving you. Number 3 is called the Akashic template. It really, truly is a part of inheritance, but your Akashic inheritance is past life. What have you carried in from the past lives that would be an energy that may very well be a predisposition for you to go to the same places you did before and catch the same diseases you did before and have the same reactions? Is it possible? And the answer is, of course. Because the Akashic record carries your energy of action in the past lives. Those who are afraid of water today perhaps had drownings in many past lives. So what does it do? It creates a situation where you don't want to swim or you don't want to be by water. The same thing occurs
when it comes to the anomalies of disease that might make you do things or think things or go places where you're more susceptible than not. Even in your trying to get away from the Akash, sometimes you walk right into it. You know what I'm speaking of. So the Akashic template has to be looked at when it comes to that which is your disease. Even if you back up to number 2, which is your inheritance, take a look at perhaps the lineage of your Akash. Is it possible you have an inheritance in your Akash, even though it's not a chemical inheritance? Do you perhaps inherit attributes that you had? And you do. That's why artists become artists and singers become singers. Because it carries over so strongly. Well, so it does also in the predispositions of disease. What are you going to do about that? I'm going to discuss it tomorrow. The fourth one is the subject that I've always talked about and always will. We'll call it consciousness. Is it possible that what you think can change, number 1, and number 2, and number 3? And the answer is absolutely. Is it possible that what you think can make number 1 and number 2 worse? Absolutely. We taught you that in the last weeks when we said, I want to introduce you to the hypochondriac who was afraid of many diseases and caught all of them on schedule. It's almost like the hypochondriac spends so much time being afraid of things that they pull it to themselves. Is it possible that consciousness can do that in both ways? Is it possible that you can rewrite the templates, change the chemistry? And the answer is yes. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. I want to tell you, dear ones, I've told my partner specifically, make these channelings free and available. This is not a plan to get you to watch tomorrow. I'm telling you, all of these will be available for you, dear ones, in a package to listen to back to back if you wish, very soon. Those listening later, after the fact of live, I would like to tell you, you have the same thing possible. All of these things are part of that which makes up the human soul. Not the human in a live broadcast, the human forever that is available for you. The fourth channel, the one that my partner is anxious about, when I'm going to give him a new assignment, I will say to my partner, don't worry. But it won't be that easy. He's very human, you know. These are the healing channels. There's more than meets the eye. There's more coming than you know. I'll be back. And so it is.